So the last posting I made was at the end of when Project Emma had finished. We'd burnt the Emma in the pass. And there's been a lull over the summer. Not much happens in Northern Ireland over the summer. And I've been finishing up gathering my data and doing writing up my transcriptions. And there's been a bit of a, I wouldn't say problem, but there's been a bit of an issue with how does this continue. There are certain key individuals in the past who are no longer in the positions they were in when they were helping me. So the dynamics over the summer, the dynamics have significantly shifted in the past. And this has obviously caused a problem for the sustainability. Now the whole point about this project is that it should have been sustainable. And there has to be this cyclical nature of the project continuing. And what we have now is a situation where I did 2 workshops with the summer scheme, and we've got 15 people to do that, and they're on the wall, but you have this massive frame on the wall now with 14 or 15 Emma on it, and it looks kind of lonely. And so this kind of came to a head last week when I went down to the youth club. The first time I went down to the youth club, there wasn't anyone there, so we postponed it and we arranged it for the next week. We told the kids it was going to be on next week, which was this week. And I came back and there was no one there. It's not the fault of the youth club, obviously. It's just the kids now are going to new schools, and there's a transition, start of term, blah, blah, blah. So there's a real problem of how do we keep this going, how do we keep the momentum. So thinking on my feet, again, trying to use grounded theory, trying to build capacity in the community and really engage with what the community wants, I went out into the park and I was talking to some of the people. And first of all, my idea was just to take a load of blank Emma, tie the threads on them, hang them on the wall, and then leave a sign saying you can take one home and you can paint it and bring it back. And try to get that kind of grassroots capacity built. And I spoke to a couple of the ladies out there, and they were like, no, it wouldn't happen. I mean, maybe they're just being pessimistic, I don't know. But they suggested it wouldn't happen. And I asked 2 of the girls who had been involved in the project, would you come and help me hang them on the wall? And they're like, no, we wouldn't. So again, feeding back from them, realizing that's not the way the community wants to go, I then began thinking about this idea of this cyclical nature, this participatory action research, this socially engaged arts, this critical pedagogy, feeding back into the community. And at the end of the last iteration, we found out there were a number of themes that had developed. There was community, connectivity, like family, hope, love, peace. And they were the kind of core elements that the community had painted. I put those in the leaflet. They were mentioned on the back of the leaflet, which was distributed, but again, you never know whether anybody reads the leaflets. But at least the community has had that feedback of this is what the community wished for. These are the main themes that occurred in the project. So after speaking to the ladies in the park and they say it wouldn't work just to put blank Emma up, what I thought to do, I had this idea of feeding back, me personally feeding back in visual form, the ideas and the themes that had A, come out of the whole Emma project, B, come out of the interviews that I'd done with the people, and C, come out of my own observations. And so what I started to do on Thursday, I started to paint this, which is what you can see here. And what I started to do was something which is quite interesting, although I do say it myself. And what I started off with, you'll notice that there are a number of them, for example, these that have the same theme. And what I actually did with these is I took one of the Emma, I put paint on it, and then I squashed another Emma onto it. So I put paint on this one, I squashed the Emma onto it, took off, and I had this. And what this is saying, it's like this idea of passing the baton. It's like this idea of something continuing, that nothing grows out of nothing. You know, nothing grows out of something. And so what I started to do was to kind of paint them in themes. You can see these ones were all duplicates. This is the one I first painted, which was black with red and 2 stripes. And then what I actually did was to take this one, squash it on that, and you end up with a mirror image. And I thought this was kind of interesting. It's this idea of taking something and then making it into something new, this kind of phoenix arising from the ashes, if you were. And this is basically what I've been doing. So I'm kind of working with this today. I've got the Emma I painted on Friday, which are these ones, and then I've got the Emma over there, the new ones, which I'm going to paint today. And there are, I think, 96 of these here on the table. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and, probably not at midnight because there's usually kind of kids in the park at midnight. What I'm going to do is early one morning, I'm actually going to go down and hang them on the wall. And I'm going to put these on as an entire art piece that has been generated through this kind of grounded theory from interacting with the community. So they're not totally random ideas that I put up. So it's not me necessarily imposing something on the community. It's generated from dialogue and observation, discourse with the community, and then putting it back into the community to see how the community then reacts. And this isn't a permanent idea. What this is simply to tread water until people in the community. So I've got another workshop planned next week with the ladies group, and I've got a workshop with St Mary Magdalene Church. There's an International Culture Day on October 3rd or something, and so this will be hopefully be part of that. And so what I'm actually trying to do is provide an interim measure to let people know that it hasn't gone away, it's still there, and just to give them something visual to look at. Because I've noticed that when I went last time, there were a number of the little cup hooks have been taken out and thrown away, and they're actually quite expensive, although it's not really the point. But I think people, when they see something, faltering, or they perceive it's faltering, they tend to then think that it's ripe for vandalism, and that's really another concern of mine, that I don't want to just leave it and let it be vandalised in that manner. There's also another interesting point which has come up, which is the fact about the burning, because I realised that they have to be burnt in my opinion, but I realised that had they not been burnt, they would have still been on the wall. They would have still provided a visual point of contact for the community. And I realised that's a problem, because once the burning has occurred, you've got that lull, that kind of time lag before they get painted again, and it's in that kind of interspace where you kind of get a little bit of a dip, which is a problem with the whole process, with the methodology, if you like. So that's something I have to bear in mind. And it may be the fact that the community actually doesn't want to do it, in which case the burning wouldn't be a kind of integral part of it, although the burning is integral. In terms of this community's iteration of it, if they're not going to take ownership of it, well, there are two choices. One is simply to take the frame and everything off the wall, and then the secondly would be to me to paint it up and leave the stuff there, and then get the community to add to it and keep adding to it, and actually not burn it, which is obviously it's an option that I'm looking at. So really, what I'm doing this morning is just to kind of go over some of these, work over them, and really the themes that I'm exploring. They're not random themes. There's obviously a lot of themes in there. You have these ideas of connectivity. You have these ideas of connectivity. You have this idea of the Donegal Pass as this kind of utopia surrounded by, the outside forces. You have this idea of love, which isn't the traditional pink, happy. You've got this kind of idea of this very dark love. And then this idea of this kind of multiplicitous love, different ways in which people can express that. You've got things like this where parts are missing and they're being drawn over, and then there's again this kind of utopian idea of this kind of the light under the bushel, if you know what I mean. And so what I'm really exploring here, I'm exploring some of the themes that came up in the first iteration, and also within the interviews, and also just in interaction with the community. I'm exploring some of those ideas here and just working with those. So that's where we're at this morning.